Thank you all so much for the opportunity to address you for just a few minutes. I know I'm standing between you and dinner, or you and a glass of wine at the bar, or you and getting home, and so I will keep this absolutely brief. But I so appreciate all of your commitments to advancing melanoma research. And you saw the big hug that I gave Dr. Goff. Many of you know why this issue is very personal to me. My wife actually was diagnosed with stage 3 metastatic melanoma about a month or two after she moved to Washington, D.C. with our family to join me after I'd been named U.S. Surgeon General. And if it weren't for Dr. Goff and the people at NIH, I might be standing before you right now as a widower. And so what you're doing is critically important. It is critically important, and my wife is living proof of why it's critically important. The fact that I stand before you now as Surgeon General of the United States is proof that it is critically important, because had I lost my wife with 3 young kids at home, I would not be Surgeon General of the United States right now. So thank you so much for that. What I really wanted to talk to you about was the question that came up, and it was a fantastic question. That last question, I almost jumped out of my seat. What keeps you up at night? Because that's the question I want to address with you all. What keeps you up at night? While I am, and I'm going to stick to a couple of my notes, because again, I want to make sure I'm brief. But as glad as I am of the fact that ipilimumab was available for my wife, as glad as I am that there was top-notch research available to help her deal with what for many people is a deadly diagnosis, I still 1,000 times over wish that I could instead invent a time machine and go back in the past and tell her not to get into that damn tanning bed. And I think that is, you know, I was at MD Anderson giving a talk soon after I was Surgeon General, and what I said to them was, I love that you all call yourselves MD Anderson Cancer Center. I want you to also think of yourselves as MD Anderson Cancer Prevention Center. What can you be doing to use your voice to lift up prevention? Because it doesn't matter how many great treatments we get, if for every person we cure, there are 10 more people out there starting their pathway towards developing cancer. We will always be chasing our tails. And so we need to come up with top-notch treatments, because there are some people who are just going to get it no matter what we do. And we need to make sure we're doing right by them and continuing to advance the science. But there's a lot of people out there who we could prevent from ever getting melanoma in the first place if we leaned into prevention. And so it's important that we highlight that skin cancer is often preventable, but incidence rates are still increasing. More than 80,000 cases of melanoma and 8,000 melanoma deaths each and every year. About 1/3 of adults and more than half of high school students get sunburned each year. Very personal to me, because even though their mom has been diagnosed with and treated for cancer, my 2 boys, still, you have to tackle them in order to get sunscreen on them. Very important that we make it easier for folks to be able to do the things that we know are right. Although the use of indoor tanning has declined, an estimated 900,000, almost 1 million high school students and 7.8 million adults continue to put themselves at risk by using indoor tanning devices. So still, we have a long way to go. And that's why last year I put out a 5-year update on the Surgeon General's call to action on skin cancer. And I hope all of you all saw that. I hope all of you tweeted it out, shared it on your Instagram. I'll be honest with you, there's a lot going on in the news. As a matter of fact, right now, I could, and in many people's opinion, should be over at the White House, because they're getting ready to have a coronavirus briefing over there. But unfortunately, I think that call to action got lost in the noise of what was going on at the time, because it didn't get as much traction as I would have liked for it to have. But the great thing about the digital age is all of you can go to surgeongeneral.gov right now and tweet it out through your social media channels, and we can get it trending all over again. And it's critically important that we get it trending, and help people understand the key points. Every time a person uses an indoor tanning device, they increase their skin cancer risk. They increase their risk of needing the research that the Melanoma Research Alliance is supporting. Every time they use a tanning bed. Use of indoor tanning is down among high school students and among adults, so that's important. Skin cancer rates are still going up. Indoor tanning use is, in fact, going down, and this decline is due in no small part to legislation at the state level that restricts indoor tanning. So when I talk about what you can do to prevent skin cancer in the first place, nothing more powerful than many of you patients going to the State House and telling your story and using that as a way and an opportunity to prevent 1 million high school students a year from exposing themselves to increased skin cancer risk. Research led by the CDC indicates that high school girls are half as likely to use an indoor tanning device if there's a law in place that prohibits their use. Half as likely. So we can make a difference. We just need to lean into advocacy. What do we need to do to focus more attention on these findings? Well, we need to continue our efforts to reduce indoor tanning, as I mentioned. More work is needed to address the high prevalence of sunburn, and we know there are things we can do to decrease prevalence of sunburn. And many sectors need to be brought into the fold to play a role in limiting UV exposure. We know that increasing shade in public places is important, and many places are redesigning their downtown areas. That's a time when you can join in as a community member and say, what are we doing to make sure this isn't all just asphalt that reflects the sun back up on us, but actually that there's shade out there for kids to play on. They're building a playground. How many playgrounds have you seen with not a single tree, not a single bit of shade out there? It's just all blacktop, and these kids are running around on it getting burned. So you can promote sun protection in recreation areas. You can also promote the use of hats, sunscreen, and sunglasses. My mother-in-law cracks me up because she chases my wife around with this big, floppy, ugly straw hat when she goes back home. But she does it because she loves her daughter, and she knows that that's a way that she can limit her risk of developing cancer yet again. Educate the public about sun safety and skin protection, restrict the availability of tanning to minors, and promote other policies that advance the national goal of preventing skin cancer. So, I want to finish with my advice to every American on this topic, and I want you all to share this again through your social media channels and in your day-to-day lives. Make sun protection a habit. It has to be a habit. Even for me, it's hard to make it a habit. I'm just going to go out and cut the lawn. It's only going to take 15 minutes, and the next thing you know, your skin is nice and rosy. Well, you know what that rosy skin means? It means that it's been damaged. You need to make sure in your daily lives you make it a habit for yourselves, for your loved ones, for your neighbors. Wear clothing to cover sun-exposed skin. Use broad-spectrum sunscreen. Very important, and we've been working with folks to try to make sunscreen more available in more public places. You see 5Ks going on all the time during the spring and during the summer. You see walks going on. Well, what can we do to partner with other advocacy groups when they're doing these walks to make sure people are putting on sunscreen before the cystic fibrosis is across the hall? If there's a cystic fibrosis 5K going on, are they actually providing sunscreen for the people when they're out there going on that walk? There are things you all can do through this organization to partner with other organizations. And number two, important to help folks understand that avoiding tanning altogether can protect them from, again, developing a completely preventable disease and an often deadly disease. And then telling people to talk to their doctor when they notice changes in their skin. The ABCDEs of melanoma, and I don't need to articulate them to you all because this crowd more than anyone knows it, but we need to help folks understand what those ABCDEs are. My wife, her husband's a doctor, the Surgeon General. Her best friend is a doctor. She has several other doctors all around her. Her maid of honor in her wedding is a doctor. She still blew off the ABCDEs for quite a while before she went in for her first diagnosis and before she went in for her recurrence. It is important that we impress upon people constantly the ABCDEs, and that if you're concerned, then you need to go in right away and see a health provider. So thanks again for giving me a little bit of time to talk to you. Thank you for all that you do I hope you all can hear the sincerity in my voice. I might not be here, and I might not have a wife, and my kids might not have a mom if it weren't for your advocacy. And so keep doing what you're doing, but also remember, it's not just about treating skin cancer and melanoma. It's about preventing as much skin cancer and melanoma as possible, because we would love to have a day when we don't need a Melanoma Research Alliance anymore because there's no more people getting melanoma. So thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. Thanks for letting me serve as your United States Surgeon General.